there's always a deeper reasoning to everything. But when we live in our head and we're so focused on being offended or what people should or should not be doing, we completely disconnect with ourselves and aren't able anymore to find the truth.
I often say, you guys are on loan from God. You're not mine. You're not mine. Create sacred boundaries. Find out what's going to make you feel better. Get the help you need from others. If they're an addict or whatever, those aren't the people that are going to be able to help you with the life skills you need.
Welcome to the You're in Good Company podcast. It's actually the very first episode since the transition. This is my mother.
Hello.
Judy Cochran, author J.C. Cochran. She has written 2 books. I mean, I could just go on and on about her credentials with her coaching business, with everything. I really wanted to bring my mom on here because she's taught me basically everything that I know. And I think it's important to talk about the mother-daughter dynamic. I find that we're often talking a lot about our daddy issues and the father dynamic and the way that the men in our life have played a role. But I actually think we're not talking enough about the literal woman who brought us onto this earth and the connection that's in that and the way that we have to be ready to and willing to see where our wounds may lie within that. So I think it's important. And we were talking before this started, the generational part, it's so important because it plays a role into everything that we do. So
Yeah.
Agreed.
And you just made me think of something too. When you said, I taught you everything, it's just, that's not how I see it. You've also often heard me say, you are both the student and the teacher. And a lot of moms know this because we get tested, opened up, our hearts expand, and we learn a lot from our kids. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Part of the way that we're going to frame this is we want it to be raw, and I thought you were laughing we want it to be raw and authentic. Perhaps, I feel like we both felt a little anxiety even walking into the conversation because we know that it can be hard.
Yeah.
And I'm really uncomfortable. You're making me really uncomfy right now. Just, God.
It'll be okay.
The hard conversations just drill me. Anyways. But it's important, and God, I just want to make something that maybe I would want to hear. And unfortunately, I was like, okay, I guess I'll just do it myself. So part of what I did was I reached out to my audience, and by that I mean my Instagram followers, and I asked them, what would you say to your mom, or ask your mom, if you could ask her anything?
Yeah.
And man, I got some serious stuff. And we'll just go through a few of them, but we had a couple good questions. And I think I want to start off with this because it'll ease us into all of the harder questions. Yeah. But I'm just going to begin actually. And what I want my mom to do is, from her experience and just being a mother in general, we're all interconnected. We all have, once you're a mother, there's that connection to every single mother on the earth that they understand something that we just don't. And so what I want her to do is try and bring some sort of light into these disharmonious questions that people have said or asked of their mother, and I think you'll be able to shine a light and create some more compassion as well. The devil or the enemy is coming out my throat right now.
Yeah. God bless you.
Trying to get me to stop talking. Okay.
Well, and I am kind of known for being the mom next door.
Yeah, but not in the sexual sense, because the woman, the girl next door is
tell me everything, and and I'm not your mom, and then I can offer you feedback, and you're not my kid. So
which we can talk about as well, though, because there were times where I felt like I couldn't talk to you. All my friends talk to you.
I know.
And so they'd be like, what are you talking about? You have a great mom. Yeah. You have this, go to her. And I'm like, you don't get it. You don't, it's a different dynamic.
All Friday night, Saturday night, and you're like, let's go to the party. And they're like, why wouldn't you want to stay here?
Yeah, depression. trauma, anxiety, those things play into that. I saw one that was actually really sweet. And she said, I know you were just a child who never got the chance to grow up and were figuring it out the best that you could. You changed me, but I see you now and I understand and love you. I just thought that was sweet.
That is.
We get to a point where I think we realize our parents are just children.
Yeah.
Just kids growing other kids. Like what? You had Marcus at my age.
Yeah.
I have two older brothers, Marcus and Clint. Marcus is the oldest. That's nuts. If I had to grow a Marcus right now, he'd be so chunky and cute.
Oh, he was darling.
Marcus was the cutest baby. We'll put a picture of him if I can find it up here. But somebody said, why did it take you 19 years to change the way your negative energy and trauma affected others?
Yeah.
Why? And I guess I'll reframe that. I think I know the answer, but why do parents wait? Why do they not change?
They need time to heal just like any other human being. And it goes back to the first thing you just said, where she starts to recognize that her parents are children too. I mean, they're going to evolve in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And to honor their process, it's hard when you guys are growing up watching that. But it is mandatory in that you start seeing your parents in that way. Mm-hmm. But
what do you think, how should a child deal with the fact that their parent is not willing to change? What do we do then in that circumstance? Especially if it's affecting us in a way that's creating trauma for us now. How do we maneuver that?
Yeah. Well, awareness of that something's off is your first step. And then to seek either talk therapy or other holistic therapies, to
like somatic or something,
or something, whatever the dis-ease is going on with you, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. To go get help, either with coaches or professionals or whatever, and do your own work.
Yeah. I think something
it's so hard for me to say that because I know when it push comes to shove, it's
it's a whole other thing. Well, and I think there was another person that reached out to me and they sent me a longer point of view on how their mom was an addict and stepped away, but also was more not unwilling to truly show up in the relationship anymore. And the girl said, I just feel like she does not give a fuck about me at all anymore. And immediately when she said that, and I don't know, everybody's experience and situation is different, but immediately when she said that to me, I was like, it's not personal.
Yeah.
I think because it's our parent who is going through it or maybe says the wrong thing to us or whatever. Yeah. We're still a child to them. Like, I'm still your child. Yeah. Like, there's still that wounded 10-year-old self in me. Mm-hmm. And so if you were to step away and say, I don't give a shit about you anymore, it probably has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
We live in such an environment right now where, and I do this, but where everything is personal.
Yeah.
Everything, we don't see the projection that's happening. We don't see that people are also suffering in their own stuff. And then especially when we trust our parent to be there or at least be at a certain standard and they don't meet that requirement that we've created in our head, all of a sudden it's because we have not, for whatever reason, shown up to the table. Yeah. And then if we get this burst of, oh, I am good enough, I'm better than this. Like, I had a mom that treated me like crap and I didn't deserve that. Then we kind of go into the other side of the pendulum of even more ego, where it's still about us. Yeah. It's like, you didn't see it. You didn't know me. You didn't know my love. You didn't know what I could have given you, Mom. Yeah. And it's not, it was never about you. Yeah. And so maybe maybe you can say something to this of if you are struggling with a parent, could there be a possibility, a realm to this relationship that you don't quite see because you're so focused on it being personal to you when it actually has nothing to do with you? Yeah. It doesn't make it any less painful.
Right. And it's hard when you're in pain to not focus on your personal feelings.
Well, Tony Robbins always says, when you're suffering, it's because you're only focused on yourself.
Yeah.
And it's push and pull. Like,
yeah,
you know, you got to feel your shit. But
yeah, you do. Shoot, I was just going to say something.
Oh, it'll come back.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
Oh, well, this is a good podcast.
Yeah. My train of thought. Well, I started thinking about how go ahead.
Don Miguel, The Four Agreements. I love that book.
Is it Don Miguel Ruiz, right?
Ruiz, yeah.
Okay.
Or Ruiz or whatever.
Whatever. Sorry, Don.
Deep bow to you, Don.
Thank you for your service. Sorry, go on.
The Four Agreements, my favorite one is do not take things personally. Okay.
Lots going on.
So don't take it personally. Now, easier said than done when you are young adult or teen and you're in pain because of an external focus you have on parents that have kind of disappointed you. Mm-hmm. You know, but you need to learn it anyway. Not to take things personally. So if you're going through something like this is your, the student's ready then, and you have to start studying that.
Yeah.
And that book would be a great place to start.
Yeah. And I think grieving it though, I think I don't want to dismiss the fact that even though it's not personal, it doesn't mean that there's not grief involved.
Oh, well, that's probably one of the stages that has to come after that.
Yeah.
Because once you start and I don't know how old you were when you looked at us and said, wow, they're flawed.
Like 5.
But it happens, and it should happen. That's very natural. You shouldn't even feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
You should not feel shamed about it. You should just know that that's the truth, that we're all flawsome.
Fuck. I hate that word. You know what? I love it. I was reading that Gabrielle book. Yeah. And she talks about the word flawsome.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what's funny? I'm probably going to talk about that on podcast today because I hate that word and I want to apologize for roasting you, but I hate it.
I know. I love it.
It feels like it's on
Gabby.
a t-shirt from TJ Maxx from 1972.
Yeah.
Which vintage.
It could be. But it's a process that everyone has to go through. They have to eventually take their love goggles off their head, look at their parents with more truth and go, okay, they're flawed. And there are some things about them that will never change.
Is there flaws that you have that you want me to not see within myself? Like, do you feel like there are any flaws that you have that you've given to me that you wish I would see that they were just yours, and you could, because I'll give them to you. If you know what they are, I would like to take those back. So what are they? This was something I wanted to talk about because you are the student and the teacher for me. Uh-huh. You're a mirror. And so I get to look at you and go, oh my God, those are some of the things that I have done right. Mm-hmm. I can see unfold in your life and in your character. And then there's other things that I look at you and go, oh, I wish I would have done more on that. Like what? Nervous system stuff. Just, for sure. I always tried to push you. I sent you to Karen Callan's yoga summer program, but I had to force you, but you loved it once at the end. Yeah. You love it. I operate like that. Remember? Because I liked it? Yeah. You I do remember meditation on the last day, and you got in the front seat and you said, I've never felt like this in my life. And you cried, and I go, what happened? You go, I'm so happy. And I'm like, but I wish I had pushed more of that because you would have had better tools and better discernment. I think in your middle school years, even with French girlfriends and just, I just was like, I wish I would have done more of that. I thought I was. I think we had a bigger focus. Obviously, like when I was 14 and stuff, for people that don't know, like when I started shifting a lot then. I mean, of course, I'm 14. Yeah. But my mental changed. I was much more depressed. I was even drinking alcohol at that point. And I'd also started going to doctors, holistic doctors, for thyroid, adrenals. And they all told me over and over and over again, something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with you. And looking back now with a different lens, I think it was my nervous system.
Yeah.
I was really dysregulated. I was living in a state of chronic stress. And it was actually the only times I ever felt relief is when somebody gave me an answer that I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, it makes much more sense now looking back where I needed to relax. Mm-hmm. I didn't need more and more and more supplements, more this, more that, more stress on what I was eating, more stress on what it looked like, more I think I needed. But it's so easy to say that now, but looking back, like we were very oriented on how do we fix this?
Yeah.
And control it. It was hard to see when you're in it that there's a deeper chronic stress. It was an emotional thing. And it was almost like I was going through so much that to have had labeled it, that it was my nervous system, would have probably felt discouraging.
Yeah.
Because it's like, don't worry, it's just you and you need to breathe.
Yeah.
Remember when we went to that lady who ended up being on the Kardashians? What was her name?
Tesh Paul.
Yeah, Tesh Paul. I can't believe I went to her.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But she told me,
I forced
You did force it. And she's a very nice lady. Very weird. We went to her house.
Yeah.
She pulled me into a room.
She was a Barbara Brennan graduate.
And I sat on this table and she like waved her hands over me. It was actually a very nice experience. Except then she told me that my problem was that I didn't breathe correctly. And I thought, this lady right now. She told you when we walked out, she's like, she needs to breathe. I'm like,
she breathes up here.
I was like, I do to this day.
Your shoulders up and you breathe up here.
I do to this day. So anyways, I don't know how we got into that. Essentially just the nervous system and.
Yeah. I mean, you were kind of a mirror. And so when I see things go south for you, I either blame your dad or I blame myself.
Me too. Sorry, Dad.
Because, I mean, there's just things that we do that we operate in certain ways because of where we came from. Mm-hmm. And I tried to do my best. And I had a good mom who was in the psychology world back in the day. And she was like, look, I'm not perfect. So don't, you're going to have to do your work too, get therapy and get over your dad and I and whatever traumas you have. But
I can hear her saying that. You should get over that.
Yeah. She was
just get over it.
Stern about it.
I love her, by the way. Get over it. Yeah. But in a loving way.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. She always made me want to pull my bootstraps back up again and get on with it. But she always encouraged me to do my own work. Mm-hmm. And in the social work and psychology world, they're like, you can't blame your parents forever. Mm-mm. And if you are having trouble, you have to roll your sleeves up and start doing the work. Mm-hmm. And that means reading and studying and talking to other people in the world that know about this stuff.
Yeah.
Which is what you do.
Yeah.
You've dove in deep.
Yeah.
That part I like. I love that people will say, oh, do you think your daughter will read this? I'm like, are you kidding? If she sees this on my bookshelf, it will disappear. Like she will read it, know? So I love that about you.
Yeah. I remember when I was little, I would open like books on your bed, like your big books, and I would pretend like I was in college studying. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I loved that. I loved the idea of learning. And it's so weird because when I was little and I went to, I was in second grade and I had the speech impediment.
Yeah.
They put me in a class with a bunch of kids that.
Slow learners.
Well, truly and like disabled.
Yeah.
And I loved them. They were amazing. Paul, Carly Frino, all of them. Like it's crazy I even remember all their names. But as a second grader, stepping into leaving social studies to go into that classroom, it made me think I was incapable of truly being a learner.
Yeah. Like
really grasping concepts.
Yeah.
To this day, it's something that I struggle with. You know, when I don't know something fully, there's a lot more shame involved in that. I used to always be the person that was like, there are stupid questions. Like, don't raise your hand. There are stupid questions. When teachers would be like, I'm like, there are. And I've heard people say them, and I will not raise my hand and be the one that asks them. And now, even in my business, the company I work for today, I'm sitting in boardrooms like, raise your hand, like essentially not really raise my hand, but ask a question. And usually it'll be a dumb question. And after I'll ask, I'll be like, dang it. Like, I knew that. Why did I ask that? But I'm trying to like relearn how.
Yeah, you're programmed.
We're all programmed.
We get programmed. And you got to undo the programming.
For sure. But there was something that I was, about that. And that's what I'm leading into, the programming of all of it. I always saw myself as somebody that wanted to learn. I want to learn. But when there's so much shame involved in learning, of course I'm going to step away. Of course I'm going to be the class clown. Of course I'm not going to be able to retain information because I'm constantly thinking about what my classmates are thinking of me versus me sitting in this room and actually taking in the information. Yeah. And so for years, that became a part of my identity. And also, like, we don't realize what these little things in our childhood experience are playing as a role in our adult life. And so until my last year of college, did I really think I was capable of learning? It was also that I didn't love to learn the things that I was learning. Yeah. Like, this stuff I love learning about. I'm obsessed with it. Yeah. But everything else, not so much. So anyways, that was also a role in my identity growing up that I had to shift.
Yeah. And in hindsight, I wish I would have paid closer attention to that.
Yeah. Why didn't you?
I don't know. I thought it was going to help you. And I knew how your speech impediment was bothering you in the real world.
And just so everyone knows, I was thinking about this too. I had learned my speech impediment, right? Like, how does a speech impediment get created? Or you don't learn how to say a certain thing. I saw a quote that was like, never make fun of somebody that mispronounces a word because it means that they learned it by reading. And they used it for the first time when they were speaking out loud.
Interesting.
And so Rose,
I didn't even know that.
One of my best friends, Rose, she taught me in second grade. We went on a trip together. We're sitting in her basement in Colorado, and she's sitting across the bed from me saying, we're going to teach you how to say your R's. I must have maybe voiced I hated the class that I had to go to. Like, who knows? She said, great, let's learn this. She's an engineer now, by the way. And she figured out how my brain was working and told me to say R. Because I couldn't say R alone. She said, say R. And we sat there and we were like, R, and like over and over and over. And we just like were screaming. We're like, I can say it. And ever since then, so I learned it. And so it's this weird dynamic of like, I was told that I was being placed somewhere where I was being confirmed and validated that I couldn't learn, when the whole point was that I needed to learn how to say that word, that letter. It's just interesting how that plays out.
That is.
And I also think you guys had a lot going on and you were visible, but I wonder how much truly you were even able to give. You know, because you were giving to everything that you could. Yeah. But when there's so much, and I guess I could say this too, my mom wrote a book, 11 Days, 35 million to food stamps. And we talk about how we lost everything when I was 4. And it wasn't just like a year that we struggled, it was years. But she goes on a trip, essentially a work thing. Well, it
was just a house sitting.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I want to say.
Santa Barbara.
And she's gone for 11 days and she comes back and we have revelations. But with that, it just is the story behind every single year. It was kind of like the same. It was hard. We were in and out of jobs. We moved houses 11 times. It was just super stressful. We also lived in like the richest part of where we lived, and I was shopping at Twice as Nice, which is like, today I'm like, cool, it's no big deal. But for whatever reason back then, it felt very shameful. Yeah. Mostly because you guys, I think, felt shameful. And I didn't know how to connect. I didn't know how to really, if you guys felt a certain way about it,
I think in the beginning we were okay with it, but as it kept dredging on, we're like,
yeah.
Are you kidding? We have to call the coach and ask them if we can get a discount on the fee to play baseball for Clint or whatever.
Yeah.
It just got exhausting and embarrassing. And I'm like, we're humbled enough. I can be humbled, but
no, and I'm not saying that,
like,
but
exhausted.
Yeah, I think it's like, and that leads into the chronic stress of like something that keeps happening over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Where now I don't anymore feel like there's safety because 1 month we're okay and then 1 month we're not.
Yeah.
That's really hard for me to feel like, and at that point I was like, and I can't learn. I can't do anything for my parents. I can't learn.
Yeah.
And slowly I felt like
we switched schools, so it kept uprooting and
yeah.
Yeah. It's a mess. Mm-hmm. The whole tagline is 35 billion of food stamps, what a family gains after losing the American dream.
Oh yeah, so I wrote that.
Eventually, you wrote it.
I forgot.
And it was, there were lots of gains, but it took a long time to really see those unfold. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. So what else? Is there anything else on that?
Yeah, I'm sure. Let me see. This person asked, when was the first time you noticed your need for codependency? I want to say this because aren't we all codependent?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think codependency gets a really bad rap. And I think, of course, you don't want to be like so codependent that you can't survive on yourself. But I also think like if you're a child, like, of course you're supposed to be codependent. And
although you were a little weird.
Let's talk about that.
Well, I actually thought that I was doing something wrong as a mother because I had the 2 boys and they adored me and they wanted to go to the stores with me and go to parks with me and do things and hang out with me. But then I had Nicole and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got my girl, like we're going to go and do things. And she was so incredibly independent that I was like, what? She doesn't even like me. Like I'd sit on the floor, lay on my stomach, play Barbies and dolls and stuff. And you were like, yeah, it's fine if you stay here or not, whatever. I'm like, what? But I also secretly absolutely loved and treasured it because I wasn't like that. I was kind of needy. You're a Gemini, I'm a Pisces. I was like, where's my mom? Where's my mom? So I knew you were going to grow into this young adult and adult someday I was always going to be in awe and admire. And I think it actually is one of your superpowers. And I think it's what saved your life.
Maybe. Or almost took it.
Because I think it saved your life because you were able to see your role and your responsibility in this is my choice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a different one in this moment. And, independent people can do that with more ease than.
Yeah. I think something I've been unraveling though, even in therapy, is my independence in times has been on the shadow side, isolation.
Oh, well, yeah, you can go
both. And I think
there's 2 sides.
I think, this is the thing about relationship dynamics is it's always different because you have a different relationship or different experiences that led you to me. And then I have different experiences, and then your mom has different experiences, and your sister, and all of these dynamics play into how we show up in this dynamic. Yeah. And I've never said this to you, but maybe like your mom was a little bit more cold. And so that could have created some sort of rejection that you felt from her. Yeah. And so you may have made it personal. It was about you. It was about you that your mom was more cold or whatever. And so when you came to me, I'm sure I was independent and I was very free spirited and stuff, but I think it's hard for me to take it on fully. Like it was me who was independent because I can't go back and say, That's how I was. You know, we might have been sitting on the ground playing and I had wanted you to be there, but you were so afraid of another woman in your life rejecting you.
Yeah.
That maybe.
Definitely.
And I think vice versa. So.
Yeah. And it's funny because I would choose girlfriends and boyfriends that were kind of like that. And I always felt like it was like some feat I was trying to, a task I was trying to complete, like to get that person to connect.
So you know the anxious and avoidant attachment styles? So the anxious attachment style and the avoidant attachment style dynamic is that the anxious is very clingy.
Yeah.
But on the shadow side, they're actually very afraid of commitment. And then the avoidant is very like, oh, I don't want to commit to you, like stay away from me, whatever. But on the shadow side, they're actually deeply afraid of being abandoned. And so avoidants go to anxious people because they know they'll never leave me. And anxious people go to avoidant people because they know the avoidant people will never come close enough to be so intimate with them.
Interesting.
And so they create this dynamic and they're talking on the surface of you're clingy, you're too far away, whatever. But on this deeper level, we're actually more so afraid of what we think we're not afraid of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that we have a secure attachment.
Yeah.
And I think that it's one of, I have times, of course, we're always going to lean into different ones. I think there were times where I felt afraid to be abandoned by you. And so I was avoidant. And then there were times where I was afraid to be too close to you or whatever. And so I'd actually lean in or whatever. When you were avoidant, I guess is what.
Yeah. And I realized that I do self-isolate, but I came out of a meditation last week actually and realized I was alone all the time. I was the baby of my family. And they left.
And they were older.
Gone.
Yeah.
They were all older and they were gone. And I have had this story my whole life. I had the best life. I was alone all the time. I had the house to myself. I would play house and act like the adult, clean, cook, all kinds of things, have friends over. And I was like 7, 8, 9, 10. And then all through like my, middle school years, I would have parties and I thought that was great. But then I realized I was so lonely. I didn't think of it until like last week.
Interesting.
And then I do this 11 days to self-isolate.
Yeah.
It just was interesting.
I think I learned that from you is like the craving of being alone to go and heal. But I actually have found sometimes I have a lot more healing when I'm willing to be witnessed.
And it's funny. So I was going to go on that trip and my plan was no speaking for 11 days and no people. Like I was going to isolate myself and do this monk thing. Yeah. And then I got there and kept meeting like angels on earth. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have to be witnessed. I'm going to have to, there's mirrors up on all these people. Like I'm learning something with each individual. And that was key. So I wasn't allowed to self-isolate the way I really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And it would have been unhealthy and unnecessary.
Yeah.
I needed to meet the people and get asked the questions and find the profound solutions I was looking for.
Yeah. And sometimes that's not found in your parents.
It's usually not.
Yeah.
It's usually the mom next door or your teacher or a professor or your best friend or...
Yeah, or therapist.
Or your lover that just dumped you. Or, we learned so many other ways.
Yeah.
And I, have often told kids, because I was doing a lot of hypnotherapy back in Tucson with a lot of kids that were like anorexic and athletes, gymnasts that, wanted to get better or whatever. But if they were not getting along with their their parents, I would say, they're just people. So create sacred boundaries. Find out what's going to make you feel better. Get the help you need from others. If they're an addict or whatever, those aren't the people that are going to be able to help you with the life skills you need probably at this time.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's the thing too, is like if a parent's wounded, there's guidance that they can give you, but they're just going to be operating from a wounded place.
Yeah.
And so all of their information is going to be from a wounded place.
yeah, you don't.
And then you're going to build resentment. And I think there are times where I resented you and Dad, but you gave me the best advice that you could in that moment. And also, double-edged sword of like, had I made a choice by myself, I could have said, well, where were you? Like, why weren't you making the decision with me?
Yeah.
So it's like, there is that role and responsibility that, unfortunately, when you get older, like, oh, like, I have to take initiative for everything that I could possibly take, you know, responsibility for everything I could take at 14 years old. And then everything else, it's like, you have to give it up to God, because it's like, I can't control it. I can't do anything about it. You know, if anything, I have to nurture who I was at 14 versus like be so upset that I didn't.
And that's something I wanted to say. We just talked about this the other day, how you have to mother yourself. You have to learn how to nurture and mother yourself. And, you know, how I have this thing that I gave to a client the other day, and I was like, I want you to write down, how can I be more kind to myself today? Just once a day, do this. Because she was just not willing, you know, to be kind. And it was a mother thing. And she's literally reinventing herself by mothering herself. Yeah. And she's 40.
I took my girls through on the course. We had like a mother moment, like a class that was just on motherhood, or like the mother wound, I should say, motherhood too. And one of the letters that they did was they write a letter to their mom, like basic. And then they write a letter from their mom, like as their mom, back to them. Yeah. And it was all about how like we're all aligned on some level, and we're all connected on some level. And especially if we came from our mother, like we can pretty much understand if we truly ask ourselves, like, what's the truth? Yeah. We can understand where our mom is coming from. We can say, oh, like, and the letter will often be like, of course, I am sorry for that. I knew it right when it happened. I had this experience that created this. Or like even going into a meditation and looking at your mom as like they are 12 years old. Yeah. And you're also 12 or whatever.
It's a good exercise.
And being able to walk through that, and it just brings the reality of it where like you grew up with your own experiences that created what my experience was as well. Yeah. And the gift about generational trauma is that there's also ancestors and people that had tons of wisdom that has now been brought down as well. Like it's not just trauma. Like
you don't just have the garbage.
We have, I have pieces of Nana, I have pieces of Grandma Eileen. Like I have pieces of all the way up there, good and bad, that I can now take from. And I can also take the pieces from them that they never uncovered themselves. Yeah. And so like we're constantly evolving. I can't wait till I have kids, you know, or I don't know, I can wait, but because I'll probably do damage to them as well. It's just,
oh yeah, you're definitely going to do damage.
Cool. Can't wait.
It's just how much of it do you want to work on before you do it, you know? So the other thing is that when we are externally focused on another, and I know they're your parents and maybe there's problems, but when we get so incredibly focused on external people in our world, we tend to lose ourselves even more. And so when I work with people, or even when it's been in our family, I've always been like, begin within, go within, get grounded, get in a safe, stable place where you can start evaluating external people, parents, where you're seeking greater understanding of them, because the minute you have awareness and understanding of where they really came from, who they really are, and you can accept it, you're free. But it's hard when you're fighting with them and disappointed in them and you're living with them or whatever.
Yeah. Very hard when you're living with them. Yeah. I've had a lot of girls that I've coached, and their first thing they say is like, I live with my parents. And even if it's like the most stable home, there's two sides to it. It's like, if it's not a stable home, or if there's tension, or if there's unresolved things, you're constantly going to be faced with it. And that might be debilitating. Like, it might make it too hard to actually heal when you're in it. Like, you need to step out.
Yeah.
And don't worry about the money. Like, I do believe that it will come. I do believe that when you do the right thing for yourself, those things will align. Will it be easy? No. But then there's also the double-edged sword of like stepping into like the house with people that, even if they are stable, you're resorting back to yourself before 18. And Gary Vee talks a lot about, I think is why I lived with you guys again, is he talked a lot about how go live with your parents, save up, do this, do that. Like, I lived with my parents as long as I could until I felt settled. And it's like, that goes for maybe like 10% of the people. But at the same time, like, if you've been coddled or even like in a chronic stress environment your whole life, you don't know yourself outside of that house.
Yeah.
And so you need to leave. You have to. I think it's truly like number one, leave.
Yeah.
Even if it's perfect and stable and they pay for everything and it's whatever, you have to step out, because there's no healing it's safe. It's a false safety, which is truly just fear-based.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing because it happens with my siblings too. Families kind of think they know who you are.
Yeah, you can't be who you truly are. You're who...
Yeah, and I'm all for growth and expansion, so I'm like, I don't want you to be 12-year-old Nicole. I want you to be 26-year-old, So I have often, with your siblings, said, when you've gone away and come back, I'm like, let her be who she...
Simmer.
Let her just be who she is. Don't put any parameters on her. Don't... Yeah. You have belief systems because of past memories and occurrences. Lose it all. Yeah. Like you're meeting her for the first time almost. Yeah. Because we can, as family members, hold people back where they were. Yeah. I think that's a good point to talk about is, if you feel like you're not changing, you're not leveling up, leveling up is a poor choice of words, but I guess going into your next higher self, or if you feel like you're stuck in a state of oldness and darkness and whatever, like, I do believe that your environment is important. I think that you can transcend it and you can still evolve into who you want to be in a tough environment, but I think it's 100 times harder. Yeah. And I think sometimes the healing is actually done in the choice of choosing yourself and being willing to leave. And here's the other thing. If you can't leave for some reason, I don't want you to feel like you're stuck. Yeah. Because what you could do is go to the family members, have a family meeting and just say, hey, time out. But not everybody can even have family meetings. Well, you have to find your voice sometimes, even if it's not normally allowed to be present in a family. But if you're really struggling, I would suggest that you go and sit down, maybe one by one with them, not in a team so they can all team up on you. But I would say, this is what I need from you. I realize you have beliefs about me, but I've been growing and learning, and that is not who I am anymore. And I need you to take the reins off of me or off my neck. Yeah. And I think if they might, the point is they may not understand that. They might, but they might not if they're cookie cutter one way, to come in and say, I no longer am this person, and you have to somehow honor that. That's going to go against their ego and what their identity, because everything's a projection. And so my point to that is, yes, do that, but also go and get around people that can support your new identity over and over and over again. I actually have found that even when I start a new job, I'm stepping into it and it's my new identity. I work with this awesome guy, and he said to me the other day, he goes, I don't see you as a very competitive person. And I was like, I just started laughing. I was like, what identity have I created? I'm very sweet and gentle and not super serious. And it's just hysterical to me, because I was like, you know what?
let's go. Like we were talking about playing volleyball. And I was like, all right, let's go. Let's go play some volleyball. I'm going to kick your ass.
All dressed up.
Yeah. I knew that I was competitive because it pissed me off, and I was like, I am competitive. No, I mean, whatever. I can be, like, if I want to be, but
it's a fun thing. You can't recreate yourself anywhere new.
He was like, what do you like? Do you just like turn into a different person on the court? And I was like, let me look up some old film. But I liked it. I sat with it and I was like, oh, I kind of, I don't need that's not me right now in this season.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be the biggest, baddest, whatever of all. That. So, but anyways, I just think, I don't know where we were going with that, but I just thought that was funny.
It's what I loved about the 11 days. Because here I was in Tucson in a fishbowl. Everybody knew we went from 35 million to food stamps. I mean, we looked pretty ragged in the places we lived. Oh my God. But what's interesting is I could go to Santa Barbara, fancy Santa Barbara. I mean, Oprah lives in Montecito, right outside of there. And I could just be no one cared who I was. They didn't care that I was on food stamps. They didn't know. And then when they did know, they still didn't care. I don't think new. I was like,
but at the same time, I don't think people cared where we were.
I think we're fun to talk about because it was in the paper and stuff. But it was just, rumor, gossipy kinds of stuff. But
any judgment that I feel today, like when I went through recently I've gone through a season of questioning my faith, questioning my friendships, my relationships, not in a bad way, in a negative way, but questioning of I need to go to a deeper layer because none of this, it all feels shallow. Like I feel like I'm on the surface.
Yeah.
And I've realized,
is it true kind of questions?
Yeah. I've realized I was judging people because they were judging me, but they weren't really judging me. I was just offended by what I thought that they believed.
Yeah.
And so I was living in offense. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying that there weren't things there's not things that aren't real. I think I'm intuitive. I think I can trust when people are for me or not. I think I know more when they're saying things and they're not.
Yeah.
I think recently or before when I was in that season of questioning, I was very heightened. So I thought people were saying things that they weren't. But my point to that is, I was taking it personal.
Yeah.
It's it's about me. It's about me. It's about me. Mm-hmm. So even if people were judging us for not having money, it was just a projection of they truly believed that the only reason they were worthy was because they had any.
Right.
So it's this dynamic of I don't care.
Yeah.
I can't care because it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Sure.
I just think to this day, I think I grew in that insecurity a little bit of thinking people were saying things to me or about me that weren't. And then it was focused on people saying things, and whether they were saying things or they weren't, who gives a shit?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that made me insecure where I was like, wait, people care how much money I make. People care what I look like. People care what I wear. That's what dimmed my light, was the desire or the expectation I held of myself of being perfect on the outside.
Because you're Flossom.
Yeah, I am. Blossom. One day.
Yeah.
One day that'll sit right. Not today.
It'll land right.
One day it'll be what I wanted to hear. I did want to talk about the rejection thing. I think on the deepest layer of any parental or maybe any relationship, dare I say. By the way, I don't know. This is just what I think. This is what I think today. Maybe you resonate, maybe you don't. I don't care. But I believe that right now, on the deepest level of most relationship dynamics, especially parents, there is this deep, deep layer of rejection that both feel. And so the I want to be loved or I'm not loved enough. So it's either the rejection of self, and so we reject them, or rejection of the fear of their rejection. And we don't think that rejection is a pillar of possibility in these relationships because we're blood. You brought me into this world. I think we bypass it. We don't think that that's the deepest thing. And then we create these circumstances and these narratives about, well, they're an addict, or they don't show up for me, or it was about them, or they don't treat me right. They don't say the right things. When if I dismissed all of that and I asked myself, what's really going on? It would be rejection. It would be this fear of, oh, they think I'm rejecting them right now. Or they're afraid of me rejecting them. How can I step closer to this? How can I lean in? Or if they are rejecting me, I can say, oh, it's actually not about me. They're afraid of me rejecting them. And so like understanding that it has everything to do with you and nothing to do with you. And I realized this, recently, not recently, but when I had my, dark night of the soul and I was on the bridge. Mm-hmm. And that's something I talk openly about, but essentially, one thing after another happened. It was a perfect storm, truly. Mm-hmm. And that's for a whole other podcast, but bad realizations came with my last relationship. And then everything was stolen from my car. I had no money. COVID was happening. It had just started. I lost my job. Like there was literally like 10 things that had happened.
Stuck living at home.
I was living at home. I was overweight because I'd been carrying so much grief and trauma that I didn't know how to process. And I'd gotten overweight after being very, very fit. So that was grief involved. And I just I hated myself in that moment. And I brought myself to the bridge. Dad found me. We came back to the house and we all got into a huge fight. I started it, but we got into a huge fight. And, looking back, I was probably just had a really dysregulated nervous system. And so like anything that you guys said that wasn't the right thing was going to throw me, and it did. And, we ended up calming down. But one of the things that I remember that you said to me that was really like impactful for me was you said, I've just been so afraid of you rejecting me your whole life. And I thought, valid. That makes sense. But then I said, but in your fear of me rejecting you, I've felt my whole life like you've been rejecting me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The rejection, the illusion of being rejected by your mother is painful because that bleeds into everything. Am I worthy as a woman? Like, how do I stand around these other girls? Do I trust these other women? Mm-hmm. So I reject everyone. I had like close-knit girlfriends that I loved once they proved their loyalty to me. Mm-hmm. But everybody else, I was like, no. Like, I don't trust. I trusted men more, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But no one's right or wrong in it. I think what it just shows is like, that was the deeper thing.
Yeah. If you want to go down layers, that's where you go.
Yeah. Cause like, I didn't feel like it was on the surface of my stuff was stolen. This was stolen.
Oh yeah. That was all the
relationship,
baby
all
fires.
Yeah.
But
it was the umbrella and the tree. And then the roots were, that was not the first time I ever felt rejected by you. Mm-hmm. And that's what's hard about conversations like this is I know that you never meant to. I know that you were never actually rejecting me.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was that way because there was no real conversation or communication as much as I think, there was. And
it wouldn't have mattered probably what I said. It's how you feel.
Yeah.
That's what moves us. And so if you felt rejection, that's a punch in the gut. That's a headache. My throat hurts. I can't speak. I have no voice. It's just, it'll come in all different ways. But it's interesting because we just moved out of that house and I was going through it for the last time. And that fight was in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge, huge crack because you slammed the door behind us. Mm-hmm. And you broke like this molding that's like this thick. Mm-hmm. And I was going to caulk it and fix it. And I went, no, I'm just going to honor it that you're just still here. Mm-hmm. But this is what I mean when I say student and teacher, I can't see everything. So sometimes the child's role is to shine the light so that the whole family can heal. And so for anybody that is feeling like they don't have a voice and they can't do that, I'm here to tell you that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing harder than hearing from your child that they want to leave the planet. You know, I often say, you know, you guys are on loan from God. You're not mine. You're not mine. And so I don't want to fail him and fail you. I'm all in, you know. But I think rejection right now is kind of the way of the world. It's sad how many kids are leaving, either through addiction or just flat out just jumping off the bridge. And you know, we have to be more aware and in tune with ourselves as parents, and then we can be more intuitive and insightful when we're looking at our kids that are suffering. But if we're not cleaning up our energy and being aware and using our intuition, there's surprises and they're painful. But so I apologize for my role. And I actually take 100% responsibility because I just do. It's like the Ho'oponopono, you know, that's how we heal.
Well, I forgive you.
Thank you.
Anyway.
The end.
I think, you know, something when I was writing during that time, and I think I shared it with you guys and you were like, okay, crazy, but
I wouldn't have said that.
I think, you know, I said, and I thought it was like poetic or something, but I said, you know, I feel like I'm screaming in my head for help, but it just whispers to other people. And little things I said, like little things I had mentioned, and we miss them because they're little, you know, they're not so obvious. I think, you know, a lot of like suicides they happen it's like a 10-second decision. They weren't thinking about it. And then all of a sudden it's like they go and they make the decision. And there's like some statistic about it, like a real one. And this is a whole other conversation, but I think my role and responsibility is speaking about it more if I need to, and then setting things in place like therapy or coaching or antidepressant or whatever it is. Everybody's situation is different, but really getting that support is super important. And I think too, we often talk about like the mental health stigma, like there's a stigma. And I think there's like a stigma, like I'm not going to go to work and say like, hey, I had a mental breakdown. Like I can't come into work. Instead I'll say something else, but sorry, work.
How much time have you taken off?
Not a lot. No, not really none. But so there's, I guess, a stigma there, but it's like it's personal. Like I probably could be like, hey, I'm sure I wish I had the balls to be like, I am super struggling with my depression. I cannot dare go work for you today. Like what? Like the amount of things, like if you knew what was happening inside my head right now, you would say, go into an insane asylum. Like you don't need to come into work. But I think what I'm saying with that is like, I put the stigma on myself. it's like we talk so much about the stigma in society that I'm like, oh, well, is there a stigma? Like, are people judging me? The world keeps saying there's a stigma and people judge it. It's like, I don't really think if I'm sitting to a stranger and I tell them that I'm struggling with depression, they're going to be like, well, that's not real. Like, or they're not going to have any sort of support. And if they don't, like, they're probably a crazy person. So I think, like, I realized I placed the stigma on me. Yeah. I carried that. I said, oh, I'm not, like, nobody really feels that way. Yeah. And I think we need to stop talking about there being
support out there.
Yeah. There's a lot of support.
A lot of love and support.
And it can be hard sometimes to find the right support, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Right. It's usually the voices in our head that get us. It's our own belief systems. It's not somebody else's that crushes us. Yeah. If they say something and it resonates, it means you have that belief system, and that's the part of you that needs to change and shift that.
Well, remember, like, in high school when people would call me fat? Yeah. So rude. And when they called me a bitch, I was like, I'm not. I was like, I know my heart. Yeah. Like, I truly was like, I know that I'm not. Yeah. I know that I'm not ever going to be, like...
No, you weren't.
...intentionally mean. Like, definitely I was feisty and I'll fight you. I won't. But only if you throw the first punch. Yeah. But if, like, I knew myself. I knew that part of me. I was like, I know that I mean well. Even if I do all the wrong things, I know that my intentions...
So it doesn't penetrate you. It doesn't move you.
Yeah, it doesn't shake me. But when people call me fat, that shook... That's what I'm saying, is like... Sometimes when people say things, like, even in this political world right now where it's Roe v. Wade or not, and that's a whole other thing, but like COVID, vaccines, whatever, like, I think, and maybe that's not even a good one, Christianity, not believing in Christianity, believing in certain things, not believing in them, left or right. When it hurts us so bad, we have to have discernment over, is it hurting me so bad because I'm so passionate and living in so much truth with an alignment with who I know that I am to be, and I don't want anybody to come against that? Or is it because they're saying something that is actually triggering a part of me that I might believe and I'm so afraid to face? Mm-hmm. That is where the real work is. Like, people talk about doing the work. I'm like, the work is not like, oh, I'm going to scribble in my journal. The work is like, where am I completely and absolutely wrong about everything that I've been telling myself? Yeah. Like the shadow side of, like, even with like an example being my weight or anything that I want, you know, a business, whatever it may be. And I've wanted it for so long, and I'm doing all the right things. It's like there's some sort of resistance that's happening that's keeping me from actually achieving it. Because there's something on the other side of having it that's more scary than not having it at all. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of us, when we carry weight, for me at least, like, I would carry more weight on my body when I was more afraid of being seen.
Protection. Yeah.
And so I've always been told I'm a light and people see me and, like, I stand out. That's terrifying to me when I'm ashamed, because that light doesn't go away, but it gets dimmer when I'm unconventionally pretty, i.e. like gaining more weight or whatever it may be. So people, not as many people look at me, not as many people talk to me, not as many people hold the door open for me, not as many, you know, random creepy guys will catcall me when I'm running down the street. Like, certain people won't ask me for my number. It's very annoying, like, if those things happen. It's very annoying and weird if you feel like when you go out into the world, there are people that are going to want to take something from you. So of course we go into protection. Of course we gain weight. Of course so yes, I want everything in my life. I want to be perfectly skinny and to be perfect. But that perfection comes with a really scary consequence of being deeply seen. And now I've been telling myself my whole life, well, once I'm skinny, I'm going to do all those things. Now there's a lot of pressure, because when I am skinny, I have to start my business and speak on stage and be seen and talk about my trauma and, like, do all of these things. God. And so anyways,
you put a lot of
yeah, so it just
pressure on it.
I guess I just want to harp on the fact that there's always a deeper reasoning to everything. But when we live in our head and we're so focused on being offended or what people should or should not be doing, we completely disconnect with ourselves and aren't able anymore to find the truth.
Yeah.
Like the real truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if we let the hive mind, I call it in hypnotherapy, go and do its thing, all bets are off. I mean, it's going to be a hairy day. Unless you've cleaned up.
Hairy day.
Unless you've a hurried, hairy day. It's a terrible day. But unless you clean up your thoughts or just even first become aware of them, most people don't even know what they believe. They see a guy down the street. He's white, he's black, he's Hispanic. They have a belief system.
Yeah.
They don't.
And there's subliminal, subconscious thoughts that go through.
You know, so you gotta look at that person and go, what is my belief right now? And why do I have this? And when did I get this? Yeah. And is it clean or is it, something that I need to shift out of my consciousness?
Yeah.
But it's just being aligned to your higher self, source, God, universe, whatever you're going to call it. That's the cleanest place for you to be. That's where all the answers and solutions come from. It'll never be from looking at people, places, or things outside of us. Those can upset us and then teach us what we need to work on, but they are not supposed to be the focus. We are here, I've heard it 1,000 times. We're spiritual beings first, having a human experience second. And we get so wrapped up in the human part of it. And we worry about how we look on the external, the money we have to make, the cars we have to drive, the people we want to love or not love anymore. I mean, it is really exhausting, but not when you're aligned.
Yeah.
But easier said than done. I'm not aligned 100% of the time, as you know.
Is anybody? I don't know.
Nobody is.
Yeah.
You're not Jesus.
No. And he was great. We love him. Good guy.
Yeah, I like him.
I like him. Okay, well, let's just do one more question.
Shall we pull a tarot card?
No.
Just kidding.
God, but not God. Rose asked a good question. Am I what you envisioned in a daughter?
Oh. No. So much more. So much more. I would tell all new moms and moms that want to be a mom, have a loose grip, because the looser your grip, the more room they have to be who they are supposed to be, not who you want them to be. They're not supposed to be mini me's. I can't stand when parents do trophy kids. But loose grip as much as possible. Keep them safe. But you're so much more. And so is Rose.
Yes.
Her mom would agree. I mean, we had our ideas of what you guys were going to grow up to be, and you have already far surpassed it. The one thing we pushed, Ava and I, that we really wanted,
Rose's mom,
that you would never lose your friendship. That you would just maintain that for the rest of your life, because we knew as older women that was going to be gold.
Yeah.
And we were right about that. But
well, and we actually didn't even know, because Rose and I didn't know that we were both moving to Dallas.
Yeah. I mean,
so
it's just
God's plan.
It's synchro destiny.
Synchro destiny. That's a good word.
Deepak's new book.
Synchro destiny?
Gotta read it. I sent it to you yesterday.
I didn't see that. Okay, well, anything else you want to say?
I love you, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
I love you too. Flossom.
Yeah.
So blossom. All right.
It worked.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we did this. We might do a part 2. We kind of went all over the place, but I think...
Yeah, maybe there can be some edits.
No edits. But I think next time, if we need to have something specific that we talked a lot of broad things. Yeah. So if there's something more specific that we need to talk on, we can do that.
And then if somebody gets inspired to give us some questions,
Yeah.
that watches this podcast,
Yeah.
put it in the YouTube thing.
In the comments.
Comments.
Yes.
Below.
Hello. Goodbye. Okay.
Bye.
Say goodbye to all my friends.
Goodbye.
Oh, wait, real fast.
What?
So I wish we would have put this in the beginning, but most of the audience that's on my YouTube are people that have looked at our TikTok videos that is like so far like only humor.
Oh my God.
So you may know us from that,
Yeah,
but no, we've got other sides.
I know the real shit.
Yeah.
Nice to meet y'all.
All right, we're good.
Beep, beep.